But don't worry about it.
It's windy. Oh, here he comes. Here he is, arriving now.
Welcome back, and today we're going to be making brick chicken. So this, you can totally go ahead and buy half a chicken that's already been removed from the breast, but in case you don't want to and you want to do it yourself, I'll show you how to remove the cage, so the breast, from the chicken itself. So this is going to give you a whole chicken, deboned, except for, of course, the legs and the thigh. So you're going to first start by cutting a line down the center of the backbone, and you're going to kind of lift up the skin and work your way down one side, kind of pushing against the bone, and the meat's kind of release. It does get a little tricky around the wing bone as well as the legs, but just move around those joints, kind of push them out, and you can work your knife through that joint. Eventually you'll reach the bottom of the rib cage, and from there just gently cut around it and try not to break the skin between the meat and the bone, and it should just come off completely. From this point, you can definitely cut it right in half and have two halves, or you can do a whole chicken as well. It's all up to you. I end up having to cut off half of the breast just because it's going to be too much for me, so I split it in half. But if you have a couple people over, or you just really like chicken, you can go ahead and just do a whole chicken. And of course, we're going to take advantage of all this bones, and we're going to make stock. So first, we're going to roast off the wings and the frame in a 350-degree oven until everything is golden brown. And as soon as that's done, we're going to mix that with about 2 carrots and 1 large onion. And we're just going to put this into a pot of water, and we'll let this simmer up to 3 to 4 hours, or till about half of the liquid is gone from your pot. And we're going to use this actually for a sauce in the later part of the recipe. So once that chicken is nice and golden brown, we're going to throw this into the pot along with the vegetables, cold water, and onto the stove it'll go, and just let it do its thing. Don't let it boil, let it simmer, let it take its time, and the longer the better. And while the stock's going, we'll make our sides for the chicken. So we're going to make potatoes. We're going to put this into cold water that's been salted and onto the stove for about 5 minutes, or till they're about 75% done. And this is because we're going to finish cooking them in a little bit of oil and rosemary. So once they're cooked, drain them off and into ice water so that you don't burn your fingers for this next part. What we're going to do is we're going to smash them. So just with the flat side of your knife, they will be sticky, so go ahead and remove them and eat a couple of them because they're still pretty good. You're just going to push down gently and they will go flat, and you're going to repeat this with all of them. Take your time. Don't push too super hard. If not, they're going to kind of explode out and it will be an absolute disaster. And in the meantime, this is a great opportunity to go warm up a very hot skillet. So find the heavy bottom skillet and put on the stove on high heat. So once your skillet's nice and hot and you've kind of drained and dried off your potatoes, we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to the skillet, and we're going to create an even layer, no stacking, of all the potatoes, and we're going to place this into the skillet. You can see it's sizzling, it's nice and hot, and you're going to want it nice and hot because we're going to crisp these up on the bottom half, and the hotter the better. So we're going to essentially fry them in a little bit of olive oil. These are then going to go onto the stove top on high heat for about 2 to 3 minutes. Keep an eye on because they will burn if you're not paying attention. So once the first side is nice and crispy and golden brown, we're going to flip them over. You might have to do this individually so that you can flip them over so both sides can get nice and crispy. So take your time, flip them over, don't burn your fingers because the pan is extremely hot. And then from here, we're just going to add 2 cloves of garlic that we've smashed and about a sprig of rosemary. And this is just to finish the cooking. If you need to add a little bit of oil since the potatoes have absorbed it, that's okay. Don't go excessive because if not, you're going to get kind of these oily, weird potatoes, and they might almost boil steam. So just be a little careful with the olive oil. And don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps support the channel. And about this point, the potatoes are essentially cooked. So this is just kind of the final seasoning part of it. And we're going to throw in a couple cubes of butter while we're at it too, just to add a little more flavor. So this should be relatively quick just because they're cooked. You're just kind of getting that last crisp, adding a little bit more flavor. So 1 minute, 30 seconds on the stove and you should be ready. And now for our sauce. So your stock should be done by at this point. So you've strained it off, and we're going to make a little bit of a light butter sauce for our chicken. So half an onion that's been minced, and we're going to make this very thin because you don't want any large pieces in your sauces. Mince this, and we're going to do 2 sticks of butter as well. Go ahead and cube these because this is going to make it a little bit easier when you're actually making the sauce. And from here, with a little bit of butter into a saucepan, we're going to add our onions to this until they become translucent. We don't want any browning at this point. This is going to be a very light butter sauce, very thin. So in goes the onions till translucent. About a 1/4 cup of white wine. We're going to reduce this by half. From here, we're going to add in 1 cup of chicken stock that you've made, and we're going to let this reduce by half again. And then we're going to slowly add in those 2 sticks of butter, lemon juice, and then we're going to finish it with 2 tablespoons capers. So you notice this sauce is extremely thin. It's very light. It's very acidic. It's to go with that rich chicken. You can see here on the back of the spoon how light and thin it is, and that's what you're looking for. All right, and finally, let's get into the chicken. So pat it dry so you can get nice and crispy skin. And from here, we're going to heavily season it with salt because it's going to season the whole chicken, so don't be shy, pat it in. I personally don't like to add pepper at this point, just because pepper will burn and become bitter. So from here, we're going to get a skillet ripping hot, and we're going to add grapeseed oil or sunflower oil, something with a high smoke point. If you do add olive oil, it will burn and become acrid and start to smoke, so you want to pick something that won't burn. And we're going to put the chicken skin side down into the pan, and we're going to cover it with a heavy pot. And this is brick chicken. If you have a brick that's clean, go ahead and throw it on. And this is going to go on the stove for about 5 minutes with the pot on top. And you can notice right now how crispy and golden the skin is. And then from here, this is going to go into the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes or till it reaches 106 degrees, where you'll let it rest for about 5 minutes after until it then reaches 165. So from here, chicken onto your plate. You can see how golden crispy that skin is. We're going to add some of those potatoes that we've tossed with that butter and rosemary. And this is a relatively fast recipe. Total time doesn't take you more than about 45 minutes to an hour, as long as you have your stock made ahead of time. I'm just going to finish it with a little bit of microgreens dressed in a little bit of lemon juice and olive oil. And then we're going to go grab our nice thin butter sauce with all those capers. It's tangy, it's salty, it's rich, and just right down the middle, both for the chicken and the potatoes. And thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed it, please subscribe and give it a like. And we'll see you next week.